had me teach leadership, you know that my heart cringes not just for our world today, but particularly for tomorrow. My passion for raising authentic and visionary leaders is undeniable in all that I do. I remember 2 years ago when I first spoke about the concept of my book, The Leadership Guardian, with one of my mentors. She asked, "What do you want people to feel after reading the book?" My answer was very clear. I want the readers to be sober, become more aware of their awesomeness, and be ignited for 360 degrees transformation in every area of their life. The reviews from the independent readers of the Leadership Guardian has been overwhelming. The Leadership Guardian is truly a transformational movement for those who are tired of mediocrity and are ready to lead a 360-degree transformation in their lives. While I cannot wait for this book to grace your shelf, I most importantly cannot wait for the Leadership Guardian to grace your heart. Let me look forward to it.
Hello, super leaders. Thank you for joining us today on the Leadership Chat with Top Business Leaders. My name is Kemi Ogunkoya, a leadership development strategist, management consultant, and author of the Leadership Guardian. And I equip business leaders to develop the right competence for their leadership roles and also seamlessly take on higher positions. It's really nice to have you here with us today. All right. And today promises to be a great and phenomenal show because the Leadership Chat with Top Business Leaders is a 12-week virtual event which holds every Saturday between 7 p.m. and 7:45 p.m. West African time. And it runs from the 15th of May through the 30th of July 2021. And the series will focus on conversations around the elements of the dozen model, which is a leadership framework that I developed, which consists of 12 key elements for effective and visionary leadership. And they include clarity, connection, character, confidence, consequence, community, consideration, critical thinking, communication, competence, commitment, and consistency. And every week I will bring to you top leaders who will talk about each of these elements and how you can interact with them for your personal and professional growth. And on this first episode, I have my first guest on the show is Bobbie Carlton, and we shall examine leadership and communication, see how effective leaders leverage communication for sustainable business success. And I have no doubt that this will be an absolutely transformational event. So, without wasting any more of your time, we have to meet Bobbie. I'm really excited to have her. So Bobbie Carlton is the founder of Carlton PR and Marketing, Innovation Nights, and Innovation Women, or as she calls them, the day and night job and then her dream job. Carlton PR and Marketing is a full-service marketing agency. Innovation Nights is a monthly product launch event that has helped to launch more than 1,500 products, which received more than $4 billion in funding. That is amazing. And Innovation Women is an online speaker bureau connecting event managers and awesome speakers who just happen to be women together. She's an award-winning marketing and PR professional who speaks regularly on marketing, public speaking, startup, and women issues. Carlton has spent the last decade building her businesses as well as supporting various community-focused efforts, especially around women business issues. And previously, in addition to working with a number of Boston area agencies, she headed global PR at Cognos and PTC, both publicly traded companies. And in 2006, she switched gears, joining a startup focused on supporting self-esteem and positive model for preteen girls. She has received numerous professional awards, multiple PRSA Silver Anvils, Mass High Tech Luminary Awards, Boston Business Journal Woman to Watch, PR News Game Changer Award. Amazing. And was twice part of Boston's 50 on Fire. She has really amazing TED Talk, and you want to watch out for that. In 2020, in addition to helping transition innovation women members for virtual and online talks and events, she also purchased additional two companies. The first is a research service for speakers called My Speakers Lead, and the second is Lioness Magazine, an online magazine supporting female entrepreneurs. Wow. And, it's really amazing that we will be having Bobbie today. So, guys, get ready because it's going to be fun. Grab your popcorn, grab, your notepad, grab your pen as I bring Bobbie in. Hello, Bobbie.
Hello, Kemi. I like the
How
popcorn.
Oh yeah, let's have some popcorn, right? We're having leadership chats, and it should be fun.
Absolutely. I love the
All right.
idea of grabbing popcorn, this being a movie.
All right, Bobbie, it's so nice to have you here. And then today we're talking about how effective leaders leverage communication for sustainable business success. And you have been in the space of communication for ages, right? And you have interacted with a whole lot of leaders in different parts of the world. Your work takes you across industries, it takes you across continents, and you have met, a lot of leaders. When we look at communication, for example, there are a lot of issues that business leaders grapple with when it comes to being able to communicate effectively. And then we look at communication from different aspects too. We're looking at it from the intrapersonal, we're looking at it from interpersonal. However, when we talk about communication, the focus for a lot of leaders is the interpersonal communication skills, right? So I want us to start from the intrapersonal, and then we, take the conversation along to the interpersonal. Now, Bobbie, tell us about this. How important is communication for, business leaders?
Huge. It's probably got to be the most important issue that they address on a regular basis. When you were doing your introduction and you were talking about all of the concepts that you're dealing with that start with the letter C, we actually have a whole series of things that start with the letter C as well. So when we talk about communication and we talk about public speaking, we talk about the benefits of public speaking, and there are the 5 C's. So we have connections, we have customers, we have credibility. So there's a lot of overlap in the things that you and I talk about. And for leaders, being able to lead and inspire their employees and connect with customers and partners, all of this is so important to their success and their ability to lead a group as well as forge new connections and new communities as well. Did I lose you there? I am not. Oh, there you are.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, so it means that we cannot separate communication from business success, pretty much.
Absolutely. Without,
Okay.
there's a saying that people have around websites, and it's build it and they will come. It's not true. And if you are leading, but you're unable to communicate your leadership aspect, your leadership point of view, you're not leading at all. You may be supervising, you may be directing, But if you're not directly communicating your vision, it just won't work.
Mm, fantastic. So I really love the fact that you talk about if you're not communicating your vision. So which means that there are a whole lot of things that business leaders need to communicate, right? So let's touch on some of those other things that they have to communicate. So beyond dishing out instructions or setting goals and communicating expectations and all of that, what exactly are the other things that business leaders need to be able to communicate to ensure that they're able to achieve some level of alignment on their teams, and then they're able to achieve great business results?
Yeah. Most business people, most entrepreneurs come to a point where they can't be doing anything else except running their business. They have something that's deep down inside of them that drives them toward a certain goal. And when they create a business, they create a product, they're solving a problem. And being able to communicate their path to that solution to their team so that the team can take responsibilities for certain actions. When I talk to entrepreneurs, a lot of times, one of the things I try to communicate is that their most valuable asset and their most precious asset and their most limited asset is their own time. And unless they empower their teams to drive toward the same goal, they are probably not going to succeed. They can't scale their business, they can't scale their solution without having other people to take up the charge and move forward together and go in the same direction.
Awesome. So pretty much being able to communicate in such a way that people, around you would understand. So what are some of the things that business leaders, entrepreneurs, or, professionals need to consider to ensure that they're communicating right? So which means that there's no disconnection between what they intend to communicate and then what the team and the business gets from their communication.
Yeah. I think a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs have a central vision and a central goal. And they are very good, usually, in communicating steps in a process and giving information that helps people do their tasks. But once people get outside their lane, once they get outside what they've been directed to do, unless they've internalized the vision and the overall goal, it's very hard for them to function. Anything that comes in as a surprise or that hasn't been anticipated or isn't part of their everyday process, it won't get dealt with properly unless they are working from the larger vision and the larger inspiration that the leader provides.
Right. All right. Awesome. So how are they able to communicate this in such a way that and probably I come from this aspect. So in the course of communication, we do quite a couple of things could go wrong based on quite a number of factors. But then what major issue that a lot of business leaders encounter is that of mistrust, between the business leaders and also those that they lead. And this is a function of, a communication bridge or a communication gap. Now, in being able to communicate their business goals, their business vision, their values, their principles, expectation, with their team and with the organization at large, how are they able to do this in such a way that they're able to minimize any level of ambiguity that can lead to mistrust or can lead to a situation where there is what we could refer to as a bad interpersonal relationship within the organization?
Yeah. I find that a lot of leaders have challenges when it comes to their credibility. And some of that stems from a distance between the things that they say and the things that they do. Those things have to be in alignment, or the people that are being communicated with don't see they see that that inability to connect. And so that will start to drive a problem with credibility. And the minute you have one issue, one thing that doesn't match, people start to look for other problems. So, in the same realm, you will also find that a lot of people will say, I have built up a mountain of, let's call them points. I've established a reputation. I've established a pattern of doing things so that if I step outside that pattern, people may give me the benefit of a doubt. If I keep doing what I say I'm going to do over and over and over again, if there is one moment where I don't fulfill my mission, if I'm a little bit outside of the usual path, people will question it. People will take away a little bit of that mountain of credibility that I've built up, but they will give me the benefit of the doubt. So making sure that your actions and your words match is critically important.
All right. So the actions and then words have to match. But for this to happen, it means that some level of internal alignment in terms of the ability for such an individual or leader in this case to communicate effectively with themselves has to happen. So if I hear you correctly, a lot of this would first hinge on the ability of this individual, this leader, to have that level of alignment within their own internal communication system, right?
Yeah. I
And
I
and that
I
would,
do see
yeah.
a lot of the people that we work with are public speakers. And so they are using the larger stages to communicate their vision to a broader audience. It helps them connect with potential partners. It helps them connect with members of the media who can help spread their word beyond the organization. And when they are on stage is a scary place for a lot of people.
Mm.
It makes them nervous. And so they can telegraph that nervousness to the audience. Or perhaps they are taking lessons or they're watching others and they see how those others behave on stage.
Yeah.
And if it's not authentic to them, if it's a place of uncomfortableness for them, they are potentially giving out the wrong message. So I always want to talk to people and make sure that they are coming from a place of authenticity, that they feel comfortable with the messages that they are sharing, and that they understand how they appear on stage or in front of a group, how that gets perceived by others. So sometimes, when we're working with speakers, I say, video yourself, see how you appear to others, and see if there are subconscious or unconscious signals that you're giving to other people. Do you appear nervous when you say a certain thing? That might convey a message that you had never intended to convey.
Well, well, all right. So, you know, it's still what falls around that piece of ensuring that there's a fit, and then there's a level of comfort to be able to communicate effectively as a leader. So let's look at some experiences, in terms of looking at some of the real challenges that leaders encounter when we're trying to communicate either their vision, either what they're trying to communicate effectively with their team. What are some of those challenges that they encounter based on your experience over the years?
I think a lot of people, when they are doing a startup or when they're doing an entrepreneurship path, um, they know that they have an overall mission for their product, for their solution, for their company. But at the same time, it is a business, and they have to make sure that they are driving that business forward in terms of growth and success and being valued appropriately for what they're providing for the marketplace. I was in a Clubhouse conversation a couple of weeks ago, And there were some venture capitalists who were talking to entrepreneurs. And there was an entrepreneur who was working on what's called a two-sided marketplace, where they are serving multiple types of audiences. And he was trying to figure out kind of who they should use as their target market. And the venture capitalists who were responding to him had a big, long explanation about who they should see as their target audience. I had to admit, I kind of came in and I said, I have a very simple question to ask you. As you're deciding your target market, who gives you money? Who pays for your service? Who values your service? And the entrepreneur is like, oh, these people over here. And I said, well, that's your target market, because you have to have a sustainable business in order to keep going, to keep addressing your mission and your goal. So understanding where you have the sustainable business, but you also have a way to get through and serve your mission, they have to overlap. It's the conversation about when you're on an airplane and they tell you, if there's trouble with the airplane, make sure you put your air mask on yourself first before you help others. Too many businesses, I think, especially, I hate to say it, this is a female thing a lot of times. We're very concerned with our mission, but we're forgetting to put our air mask on ourselves first.
Well, so we're taking the dimension of the conversation, which truly was almost inevitable, right? Okay. So remember to put on your air mask first before you do that for another person. So looking at some of the conversations that we have had so far, we have been able to explore from the place of the personal dimension, and then looking at it from also the business dimension. So talk to us about this, Bobbie. What are some of the huge transformations that you have seen in your space about leaders who are able to improve their ability to communicate effectively? How much of an impact have you seen that this has had on their businesses? Because, we see a lot of leaders who first struggle to be able to communicate with themselves, and because of that, there's an entire cycle around that. So because they struggle to communicate positively or effectively with themselves, they then struggle to be able to communicate effectively with other people, and because they cannot communicate effectively with other people, it invariably impacts and affects their businesses. So looking at that entire cycle, what are some of the strategies that you advice for business leaders in terms of understanding how much of how important communication is for business growth and business advancement? And also, while talking about that, I would like you to shed some light on some of the experiences that you have had, seeing how people have been able to transform their businesses because they have been able to leverage on this important skill called communication.
I think there's about 6 questions in there. So
yeah, or 10.
I think I'm going to break them down a little bit, and
that's great.
And use a story to illustrate my point. My early career was very focused on getting visibility for other people. I was in the public relations department. I did media relations. And part of what I did was to get other people on stage. So when I started my own companies, one of the things that had to happen is I had to be on stage, and it wasn't a completely comfortable place for me. I started innovation nights thinking about how I was going to help local startups when they needed to launch their new product. And, this is back in 2008. And in the US, The market had fallen off a cliff. There were very few jobs available. Many people had lost their jobs. And when that happens, there is a opportunity for entrepreneurs who are like suddenly out of work, or maybe they can't get a job, to work on their personal projects. And I saw many of those people, and I knew they had to launch their new products. They had to connect with customers. They had to connect with the community as a whole. And that's when I started Innovation Nights. And Innovation Nights is a community driven project. The idea was to basically leverage everyone's social networks. At the time, Twitter was young and LinkedIn. We weren't quite aware of the power of these social networks to communicate about messages. So I was starting Innovation Nights, and I held an event and I invited people, but I only used Twitter. It was early on when Twitter was young, and I was doing it as an experiment. So I gathered about 200 people together, and there were 10 companies who were launching new products. And I said, okay, community, let's help blog about these companies, tweet about them, take pictures and post them. Or if you're not into social media, that's okay. You can just tell somebody about the cool products we see here. So we were using our social networks to communicate with the community at large. Lots of tweets, lots of posts, lots of pictures. But over the course of that evening, we had to do presentations. And as part of that, as the leader of the organization, I had to be the host. I had to be the speaker and the communicator and the person who was directing people to do what I needed had to be done. But it wasn't a really comfortable place for me. And so, there's a physical reaction that happens when you're uncomfortable with something. You're flushed, you sweat. I sweated through my shirt. Thank goodness I was wearing a blazer over it. And people were all taking pictures of me. And so, looking back at that event now 12 years ago, boy, there's a lot of really uncomfortable pictures of me trying to direct the audience. And because I had a long reputation before this event, I think people gave me the benefit of the doubt. So I was able to communicate what I needed to communicate. I was able to remain credible, and the audience worked with me. Going forward, over many years of doing this same thing, I got more comfortable with it. And suddenly people started to invite me to MC at their event and be on a panel and speak to their audiences. So I was able to spread the message that we had. But I don't think the me of that first event would have ever been invited to speak at anybody else's event. I looked so uncomfortable. I looked so sweaty, and it was just not that comfortable place. So I kind of powered through. And I think really the lesson that comes from it is practice. Practice, practice, practice. As you get more comfortable with saying your message, you develop ways of saying it. You develop catchphrases. You develop effective shorthand and sentences that people pick up on, and you read from the audience what they respond to. So a lot of times it really is practice and getting comfortable with your message.
Wow, wow, wow. That is absolutely insightful and instructive at the same time. So practice and then get comfortable with your message. Now let's come back to the dimension of self, because like we have established in the course of the conversation that it begins with how we're able to first communicate with ourselves. So how much of practice do you need with yourself, to get comfortable to the level that you, are unafraid to share your message with the world?
8 times. I'm not kidding. I'm actually not kidding. Like, I feel like
Okay.
everyone has a magic number when they're doing a presentation or they're sharing something for the first time. And I find that for me, if I do a presentation 8 times, that just happens to be my magic number. I am
Magic number.
comfortable with what I'm saying. I've internalized it enough where I don't have to read a speech. Nobody likes to be read to. It just isn't natural. And so if I go through a message or a presentation 8 times, for me, that works.
You're good
I
to
know
go.
it sounds like, oh, just more, it would be better. But if I do something too many times, I almost sound too practiced, too
True.
robotic.
True.
And pauses and silences and emphasis helps communicate. It helps really give people on the other side the opportunity to hear what you're saying, to think about it, and to perhaps even in their minds respond to you.
Mm, fantastic. So practice, practice, practice. The magic number for you is 8.
8.
Yeah. So I think it's important that people get to find out what works for them,
Yes.
and what then they're comfortable with, which of course, is going to be highly based on how much they're able to practice. So it's when you get comfortable with practicing, then what, for me it's 5 times. For me, I need to even go past 8. I need to go past Bobbie to go on like 10 or 15 times. So it definitely has to do with how much we practice and then we get comfortable with our message. All right. Thanks a lot,
Actually, what
Bobbie.
I want to jump in, like, there's one additional point.
Okay.
I often, when I'm working with people who are interested in public speaking, there's a group of people who are often not interested in public speaking. And I often try to encourage them, and that group is introverts. I feel like introverts make incredible public speakers because they often have it inside of them to prepare and prepare well. Introverts tend to be better about preparing for presentations, that they take it seriously in terms of practice, whereas if someone is an extrovert, often they have been praised for their public speaking and they have had a lot of positive reinforcement for being out there and being I hate to say it, but loud. And so they are more inclined to wing it when it comes to communicating well and communicating in presentations and messages. And so if you've always been told you're an introvert, public speaking is actually a good thing for you. So just a little side note there.
Side note to read, right? All right. So while on that, Bobbie, is there any profession or is there any business leader who doesn't need to incorporate public speaking?
No. I oh.
So when you get the deep thought, I'm like, okay, maybe she's gonna come up with one. But so so
No.
the answer is no, right?
I mean,
Because I hear
maybe there are
people
some
say
secret societies. Spies. Spies.
okay, they don't have to. Okay.
Spies do
All
not need to
right.
do in public speaking.
Right. So if we establish the fact that for effective business results, leaders have to get comfortable to be able to express their vision, because they have to be able to carry people along, people on their team. They have to carry different stakeholders along. Off your head, what are 3 key things that you would recommend for someone who is on this call, who is a business leader, forward-thinking professional thinking, you know what, I hear you, Bobbie, but this is not for me. I hear you. Introverts are great at public speaking. It's not for me. What are three top things that you can recommend for them to start right now that can help them get to that level of comfort?
I love this question. And one of the reasons is that it serves a dual purpose for me. So if you are interested in getting started, or maybe you're not interested in getting started, but you understand the importance, one thing to think about is asking questions. Asking questions from the audience often enables you to speak to the exact same audience that the people who are on stage are speaking to. But there isn't that same pressure on you. You're not raised up at a level above the rest of the audience. You're among the audience. You are able to say your name, your company name. You're able to give a little bit of a context to show that you also understand the topic. And your question, shouldn't be a long question, but it's the first place that a lot of people who might be uncomfortable with public speaking, it's the first step for them. It also brings you to the attention of the people who are on stage, who perhaps are your peers, but they haven't connected with you yet. And so you're able to be communicating with them. And by the way, if you're asking a question from the audience, you are now not only on their radar, but they are grateful to you, because there is absolutely nothing worse than being a speaker, getting to the end of your presentation and saying, "Does anyone have any questions?" And there aren't any. If there's crickets, you're like, "Oh no." It's awful. It's awful if you're a speaker and nobody wants to ask you a question. So when somebody asks you a question from the audience, it's a gift. It's a gift to them and it's a gift to you.
Awesome, awesome. So we've got question in the box. So we've got two more strategies.
Two more strategies?
Yeah.
Let's
So so I wanted you to share three with us. So we have questions, ask questions. So two more.
Okay. So question. What is the role of emotional intelligence in communicating as leaders? That's a really good question. So I think emotional intelligence allows you to connect with your audience and to know what you can do that is credible. If you're saying things that make you uncomfortable, they're probably making your audience feel uncomfortable as well. It's the empathy with the audience that allows you to connect directly with them. So I think it's incredibly important to be emotionally intelligent, just in terms of knowing what you can say, what you can't say, and where there are potential minefields in the questions and the responses that you're giving. So did you say there was a second question, Kemi?
So let me see. Okay, so I think that's the question, and then someone says the magic number is 2.
Oh, I'm so
So
impressed.
those 2 Okay, so fantastic. Now, Bobbie, we're gradually wrapping this up. But then before we go, right, I'd like you to shed some more light around the place of or the connection between communication in itself and then great business results, accelerated business results. What exactly is the connection? Because we have a lot of business leaders on the call today, and I'm sure they would like to know that.
Absolutely. When I do public speaking, when I am doing marketing, when we're doing events. So, if you think about all three of my companies that I started with, So there's a public relations and marketing firm. There's an event that is helping to launch new products. And then there's a speakers bureau. The overarching umbrella mission for me as an entrepreneur is that of visibility. I believe that visibility drives business opportunity. Every time you get the opportunity to tell your story, and by the way, everybody should have an entrepreneurial story. You should be able to tell your origin story. You should be able to have an elevator pitch that very quickly communicates what you do and who you do it for. So when you are thinking about everything that I do, it all really is around driving visibility and being able to be given that opportunity to tell your business story to the point where people understand what you do, who you do it for, and how you do it. I do see another question in there now. Do you want me to
Yeah.
address that?
Yeah. Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay, David. David is asking, how do you formulate a concise message for communicating? And this does get back a little bit to the earlier thing that I was talking about in terms of my practice. I give the same presentation a lot. I have a presentation that is called the Career Game Changer, Public Speaking. And I've given this presentation many, many times. And every time I give it, I tweak it a little bit. Number one, I'm doing it specifically for specific audiences, but I also see where audiences respond, what questions they have, and I take note of their questions. One of the things I do with this presentation is I have some hidden slides at the end. After I have asked for questions, after my thank you slide, I have some additional slides. And those additional slides, they address the most common questions that I get asked. For example, one of the questions I get asked a lot is, how do I get paid for public speaking? And I have a series of slides, and often that's the first question I get asked. So I have that one first. And I'll go, oh, I'm glad you asked. Here, we go right to the next slide. And it always gets a reaction from people because it means to them that I know my subject matter so well that I am prepared for very specific questions. So I think it really does come down to practice, listening to the audience, and practicing what you say and seeing how the audience responds.
Response to that.
Yeah. So I think that's
Fantastic. 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 Thank you so much, Bobbie, for sharing that. Now, I absolutely love the fact that you speak about how visibility impacts business results, and I think that's something that leaders on the show, business leaders on the show need to go back home with and start thinking from the place of how do you get yourself out there? How do you get your message out there? How are you able to establish a level of alignment between your intended message and then the outcome you want to achieve? How are you able to harness the skill of effective communication, and let it drive every other thing in your life. Let it drive you from the personal standpoint, let it drive you from the professional standpoint, and just impact everything that you do. It has absolutely been an amazing time with you on the show, Bobbie. You have shared really great tips and nuggets, and I just really thank you for making out the time to be with us on the leadership chat conversation. So guys, you have had it all. Okay, Bobbie has shared really amazing insights with us, great strategies. She's spoken endlessly about the fact that as business leaders, we cannot afford to stop practicing. We need to keep practicing over and over again till we get to that place and level of comfort about our message. She has also spoken about the fact that there has to be great level of alignment between what we want to achieve and how we're also able to express the same. She has also spoken about the fact that visibility is a key element of business success. So get to the drawing table and start saying, how can you be more visible? How can you ensure that your organization itself is also getting the visibility that it requires to be able to achieve the results that you want? Amazing. Bobbie, before you go, where can we find you? A lot of business leaders are on this call. I know Innovation Woman or Innovation Women prefers great solution for women who want to leverage visibility, in terms of public speaking. So where can we find you, and how can people on the call, business leaders, sorry guys, how can women be a part of Innovation Women?
I have to admit, before I give you my contacts and info, Innovation Women has 1,500 really awesome women speakers, and a handful of really secure guys. So we do have men on Innovation Women, and who are male allies for us. So they are welcome. Who would I be to turn them away if they are interested in supporting us?
True that.
So you can absolutely find me at innovationwomen.com, and it's very easy to connect with me through our website. So thank you so much for having me, Kemi. This has been great.
It absolutely has been. So guys, note that insights without actions will always be useless. So if you want to run with this great insight to ensure that you're achieving better results for yourself and also for your business, connect with Bobbie on Instagram, on Twitter. You can also connect with me on Instagram and Twitter, on LinkedIn, so that we can keep up the conversation around leadership and the elements of the dozen model. So you want to look out for the next episode, which comes to you live next week, Saturday, at the same time, 7 p.m. West African time. Over the next 12 weeks, we're going to be having great conversations like this, great chats, because it looks kind of informal, but then a lot of lessons are packed in between each and every sentence that we have shared today. So guys, till we come your way again, we look forward to seeing you. So thank you very much, Bobbie. We'll see you soon. All right, guys. So that is it. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode till we come your way again. Thank you.